Well, hey everybody, good morning and welcome in, or good afternoon if you're over there in Europe or anywhere else. Welcome to the Head-to-Head 9 wrap up, which is also our award show today. And we are happy to be joined by Liampi as well this morning. Welcome in.
Hello.
So we have a big show today, getting through all of the various awards and kind of talking through all of the fun stuff there. So, without further ado, let's jump in. I pulled up Stardust Jubilee to start, which always a fan favorite and one of the two Stardust parks. Always kind of mind blowing as I thought it was. Um, so surprisingly enough, this actually did not win a first place in any of the awards, but we got a couple cool things to talk about for this one. This was the number 3 best themed ride with Jackpot, the coaster here. And then the number 1 Steal of the Draft. So congratulations to Where's Walto for the Steal of the Draft. Definitely contributed very highly to the team, and so this is a good winner here. What do you think on this one, Liam?
It's a controversial park, and I gotta say, I've never seen it run as smoothly as it does on this stream.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hefty push on some laptops. Mine's chugging right now, but it's
No,
pretty
I'm
good.
impressed. I'm looking at it with new eyes, so I'm really liking this. And while it didn't win any first place in any award category, it did score high in several categories. So the coaster called Jackpot, it actually won 3rd place in the best themed ride. And it's probably got to do with the incorporation of the slot wheel as well, which interacts heavily with the coaster. Where's Walto won Steal of the Draft, and this is probably one of the best examples of his work in head-to-head. So it did win, kind of, in the award, just not first place. And what's also notable, I think one of the most popular aspects of this park were the custom signs, the Lady Luck and the spaceship that crashed into a glitchy sign.
Yeah,
And
love these.
there were a lot of shouts for those signs in the best idea category, but for different signs. So I'm not sure how they would have ranked if you added them up. But maybe because there were so many ideas, the nominations were spread out over them, and it didn't win. So maybe it's kind of a pitfall of a park being too rich in ideas. It missed out on the win there, maybe.
There's just so much to see in this one, just so heavy detail, and I feel like that was the theme overall this year: is the amount of detail that all these parks really packed in. Well, let's move along and start up into our couple more here. We're gonna look at Logan's Brewery next. Once
I'd like to say one more
loads.
thing about Stardust, I believe.
Go right ahead while I restart RCT because it just crashed.
What I thought was curious about the award nominations, I thought it was kind of entertaining that in the best new object category, 2 people nominated the giant planet in the background. I did not see that coming. I think it's funny, and it was a cool feature as best new object because it's not really useful outside this park.
I guess that's the challenge to everyone. Who can use this best in a future park?
Oh, it's definitely going to be in the next disaster bench.
That better be, so we'll see how that goes. There you go.
No, I thought it was a funny inclusion. And it again speaks to the quality of the idea.
It is. It is. It's not something that I would have expected, and I think seeing some of those objects that are only visible from the one angle and have a very different texture to the real thing, it's definitely interesting. So before we jump into some of the matches and coasters and everything, we're going to look at a few parks that didn't win but still get some honorable mention here. So Logan's Brewery here, um, from from the team, from Logan's run, we've got the number 3 best losing park. So this one, honestly, in general, Logan's run had a couple of close losses, unfortunately. So this is a nice little park. Came up a little bit short, but this was the number 3 voted for best losing park.
It lost against the Diegetic Underground, blah 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 blah, with a long title.
Which
And
I liked that park a lot. So I mean, it is what it is. But
it was a tough match.
For
I
sure.
think it's interesting that of all the parks, maybe this park has the most momentum right now as an underrated park because it lost. And maybe if the match were held now, it would have tilted the other way in this park's favor. That's what I'm kind of sensing.
It came down to 1 or 2 votes, I want to say, and the 2 parks are very different. I mean, you have the Diegetic Underground that was just so compact and detailed and everything else. This has some more room to breathe, and some more kind of open landscape, but there's just lots of details, lots of clickable stuff, and it's one of those where it's a humorous park, but it's still done in a relatively classy way.
Yeah, it's kind of there's a lot of familiar elements, but as a whole, it feels quite unique.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, not too exotic, it's still fresh.
exactly. Well, let's look at a another park that had a something coming up just short. So this was for best wooden coaster, and this coaster came in 3rd place in that. And Liam, this was your team, tomatilla, the wooden coaster here. 3rd place finisher in best wooden coaster.
I mean, it was my favorite.
Well, of course. I do like the archway over top of this. I'm still not sold on the half diagonal arches, but I can be okay with that.
Yeah, some people said it's forced, but it's actually the most natural way to thread the hole there. Like, it was just the best angle. It didn't have to be half diagonal, but the situation kind of demanded it.
Well, this was very round 1 park too, so this was the first start of some of these half diagonals, and it got kind of progressively crazier as everything went along.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time making the textures half diagonal and getting the colors right and stuff.
Did your emptying tomato trains get any best idea votes?
Yeah, a couple. And all the credit to RWE there. It's all his idea and his execution.
Well done to him, because that was a cool thought, and I think we saw it used in a couple of different ways here on other ones. This layout does have a lot of nice flow to it as far as the wooden coaster layout goes. It doesn't feel terribly forced, and it's got a lot of good interaction with everything.
I'm glad it almost won. I mean, 3rd place is pretty good. So I'm really happy with how it came out. It's definitely one of the best coasters I've done.
I'd say so. Was this 100% you for the coaster?
I think so. But we did brainstorms together, so it's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to say, but I probably did at least 95% of this.
Oh, very nice. All right, so let's get into some of the best matches, some of the best coasters. So we're gonna jump right on in here. Let's see here. So first of all, we're gonna do the Christchurch City Center. This one matched up against Logan's Run's Lemuria. And I really liked this park. It's talking about the objects that grow or empty like the vehicles for the tomatoes, we have these just incredible objects here using the flower technology, or feature, I guess, that changed as the handyman watered them. And that was just incredible, from the posters here to the growing to the growing buildings. I was a big fan of that.
The skyscraper, the growing skyscraper, it didn't win in the best idea category, but it got 7 nominations, so it's definitely one of the highest ranking ideas.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's a just super clever idea. So Christchurch took home 2 things. Took home second place for best losing park. So unfortunately, they did lose, but not by much. This was a close one again. Once again, Logan's run, but also took number 2 for best match.
Yeah, it was against Lemuria, so we're gonna view that next. Although I wish we could spend more time with this park because there's so much to see.
Before we do one nice look into the earthquake center, which that's my favorite detail in this park. The little tables there and the Ring of Fire map, and it was great.
It's the map for me. The map is probably the best feature in all of Head-to-Head to me, and this building is the best building in Head-to-Head.
Yeah, this is easily one of my favorite buildings in the game. Just using for me, this used half diagonals in a way that didn't look awful, because I was not a fan in general, but this made them look good, especially this front facade here. But let's move along here to Logan's run. So this was Lemuria. So Steve and Extreme's take on the classic Rivers of Babylon coaster with an Islands of Adventure theme.
This is the other half of the number 2 best match.
Yeah, so number 2 best match, number 2 best ride design for this guy, and also for the Rapids ride over here. And also, Extreme 97 takes home number 3 as Rookie of the Year. So well done to him. It doesn't feel like he was a rookie, to be honest, with the amount of work he put in.
There's several people who have been around for ages. It was still their first head-to-head, like Jaguar and Split Vision as well. I think Split Vision has been registered in 2004, and this is his first head-to-head. So that's crazy.
Pretty incredible that we're still seeing new folks come in like that, even the folks who have been around for a while, and just the quality of the builds. Extreme put in 3 nice parks, and Split Vision did the same, and Jaguar had pretty much a solo, which was pretty impressive. But this one brings home our first winner of today, which is Best Steel Coaster, or Versio Lemuria. This is a joint win. We'll look at the other one here in just a little bit. But I think this was a good choice. Nice classic B&M launched lift hill coaster.
Yeah, this is another controversial win, I suppose.
Active.
I really like how it's
diagonal braking.
Yeah, it's suddenly really good. Like the diagonal brake, like on a technical level, it's good. But also the way it's integrated in its surroundings. Like I really like how the Immelman or dive loop, keep mixing them up. How it's like halfway sunken in the ground, interacting with the rapids. That's a really cool, really cool set piece.
Yeah, I think that turned out really well. And of course the iconic Copa roll out over the water. And I was a pretty big fan of this first roll drop thing. Kind of a neat way to do it. And then looping around the lift hill. It was very cool. Alright, well the rain's coming to this park, so let's move along, and we're going to visit another Logan's Run park, actually.
If we stay too long, it will be submerged.
It will. Round 1 again, and this is the Good Death. So this was actually round 1, match 1.
And another Steve park.
It is. So another Steve park and another Steve award. So this one takes home Best Wooden Coaster for the Moss. And this was Steve and AJ and Jenny all collaborated on this one. I think the coaster was mostly Steve, a little bit of AJ in there as well. nice kind of flowing layout through the big giant skeleton thing here.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm glad that people remembered too with being round one. I feel like, especially for this contest, which was as long as it was, it's sometimes hard to remember some of the earlier parks and what was in them. So it's good to refresh.
I haven't seen this park in a while, and it's really nice to see it again.
It's kind of interesting too because you can kind of almost see a progression of style and density throughout the contest, and this earlier park just was, certainly dense, but dense in landscape and greenery and everything else, and you didn't really see that in a lot of future parks through the contest. So it's a very kind of refreshing take on what's going on.
Yeah, it's like in some aspects of the game, it's really hard to compete with parks like Stardust Jubilee. Like this could have existed in head-to-head 8, for example.
Hmm.
But it also sits in its own niche because of that. Like it's more easy to digest, which I really appreciate. It's more spacious, and it does have that skeleton, which holds up very well, even against the sick parks that came after. And in the
Hmm.
best idea category, there were several mentions for the skeleton, and especially the hand sculpture with the ring, with the coaster going through it. It got several mentions in the best idea category.
Yeah, that was a cool feature.
Yeah,
I
I
did like
voted
that a
for it
lot.
myself too. It's it's super cool. It's really well done.
Yeah, very very nicely done, and I think AJ was a big proponent of a lot of that, and really did some cool work and cool detail on this. We're actually going to stick here with round one as we jump into our next park. So next park is Lost World from the Adventurers Club,
And
and I
this is
think,
really, one of the biggest winners of the day.
yeah, it is, which is kind of funny because this park lost in its head-to-head match. Uh, so it's kind of interesting that time gives you clarity, perhaps, and now we see things a little bit differently, perhaps, at least as far as the awards go. This was a pretty interesting part for me because this was kind of the first real heavy palette, kind of real dark palette. Had a lot of complaints initially. I remember when it first got posted, but this won the number one award for best palette.
Yeah, that's surprising, but I don't know what other park should have won. There were several good palettes. This one is too dark, but people say that. But it
It
is
is.
appropriate.
Yeah, it is dark, but I feel like it works. It works pretty well, and I almost feel like we rarely hear about good palettes. It's almost always complaints about bad palettes. So it's nice to acknowledge one that I think did well with it. But the nice thing with this being so dark is it really calls out the shadows, calls out the textures, and it
Yeah,
helps do a really nice difference between bright, like the lava and the bones and everything, and kind of the darkness of these rocks and everything else makes it feel a little more mysterious almost.
yeah. I think it's pretty clear that this palette is very carefully designed. It's not just let's change the color and
Hmm.
whatever. Like
Absolutely.
a lot of thought went into it. And there's also stuff like the peep colors being different, which I
Hmm.
think contributes to this palette being as good as it is.
Yeah.
So I can't
It's a-
disagree with it. I wish it were a little less dark, but it's a really good palette. I can't deny it.
yeah, absolutely. It grew on me over time as well. I think it turned out really nicely. Well, we did say this park did lose its head-to-head match, but through doing that, they brought home two awards. First of all, number one best match between this and Aqua Alta, which we'll look at in a moment, and number one best losing park. So sort of the consolation award, I suppose, but um, it certainly is an acknowledgement of quality and a great park.
It's the best of the rest.
Mm-hmm. And we have also a couple more in here. This is the joint winner for Best Steel Coaster. This is Rite of Passage. And yeah, I will call it a steel coaster. It's Since we don't have a hybrid category, we're going to call this one steel because it has a steel track.
And if you disagree, you can consider Lemuria's coaster the winner. So everyone is happy.
Exactly. This one turned out really nicely. We saw a lot of RMCs this contest, but had some really cool elements like the little pre-lift section here over the lava. On the other side, we've got this really nice outward banked corner with the bones. That's a big one for me. Love this drop off the side, especially all the custom support work. There's a lot of kind of nice detail, nice work on all of that. More of these sort of like bones and just interesting support methods throughout the whole space, but it turned out really nicely. But yeah, so joint winner for best steel coaster, and lastly, recognizing our first builder was Hydroportal for #1 Rookie of the Year, and I think that is very well deserved.
Yeah, it's he won by a pretty large margin, and it's pretty easy to see why. Like, he did several parks. This park alone would have launched him near the top of the best rookie category.
Yeah, absolutely. Hydra was the clear kind of MVP for Adventurers Club, I think, and really did a bang up job in the whole contest. And I think it's certainly validates Josh's #1 pick for him.
Yeah, it was his first pick, but you can even argue it was steal of the draft.
I would say so. Well, let's look at the competing park here for this #1 best match of the contest. This was Aqua Alta 1896, and actually this is the one that I voted for. Although I could really have gone either way, to be honest. And looking back at them, you have merits for both. There's just a lot of really cool details. I do still really love this park. I feel like it had a lot of underrated bits and pieces to it and details and everything. Our flooded Venice. Also, our sort of bedroom incident being our second flooded park in round 1.
Yeah, I love this.
So many good details.
Yeah.
Introducing some of the more interesting custom rides. So custom rides as effects. So the smoke here and some of those other things that we'll see used on other parks here in the future. Also, things like the waterfall. But that was really the tile inspector sort of MO was interesting use of custom rides as scenic elements or landscape elements through their parks.
Yeah, this park really set the tone for their season, I think, also with the level of crunch and detail and refinement that we've seen in every park from them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it really did, and the architecture is spectacular here. This was enough to get them the #2 spot for best architecture. I think my favorite bit is probably on the Doge's Palace here, where the domes are cut in half. I think that was a super clever idea.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And lots
Pretty
of
flawless.
Lots of good detail. I was never a huge fan of the kind of landscape edge detailing thing that everybody sort of got into, but I did like this the little bit of look as the piles down into the kind of muck of Venice. That was very cool.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. The map edge, maybe perhaps the best map edge we've seen in the contest for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this one did really well for that. Coaster's pretty good. A little meandering, but I feel like it sort of fit that bill for adventure coaster type thing.
I think if the coaster were a little stronger, actually, it would have stood a chance in the best park category. I think, because I think the rides let this park down a little bit, which is only relatively, because it's still it's a good coaster.
The spinner I liked quite a bit.
But if it were stronger, I think, yeah.
But it is. I think it's a testament to the contest quality because I feel like
Oh,
this part
sure.
was largely not talked about after the first couple of rounds because we just got so many more really high quality things in there. But it's one that I still enjoy going back to and looking around. Like you finding new details in there pretty well.
Yeah,
All right.
I feel a little inferior when I see this. I've been wanting to do fitness, and I never did, and now I never will because I can't outdo this.
Well, speaking of feeling inferior, let's um, let's look at another park here. Oh, this one's one of yours, Rajasan. So our fantastic Indian um, densely themed park here. So rolling out of Aqua Alta, which got number 2 architecture. Um, you and Andrew roll in here with this park, which takes home number 1 architecture, best architecture in the contest, and I can certainly see why. Love the detailing in the large architecture and the small.
I guess
A
this is
lot.
the moment where I say thanks for all the votes.
Exactly.
Um,
You can gloat a little bit now if you'd like.
now I can give a little speech. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of credit for the architecture here goes to Andrew. Like most of the stuff that you see with the domes, everything that's decorated is usually his work. And I wanted to be the architecture more mundane, more blocky with the flat roofs. So when you see a flat roof building, that's probably more my style. If you see a dome decorated building, it's probably more Andrew's style. But I think in the end, we found a really nice balance and nice mix of the two styles. Maybe that's why it was so well received.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
nice detailing in there, and you're right that Indian architecture, especially sort of the more domestic architecture, can sometimes be pretty plain. But I think the use of colors here, the use of the detailing, you take a lot of these 2x2 elements and really turn them into something pretty nice. And Andrew actually takes home a couple of close calls here. Andrew's coming home with the number 2 rookie of the year and number 2 steal of the draft. So certainly a good pick and a replacement pick at that.
yeah, I did pretty well there.
Yeah, you got a good one there for unfortunately RCT fan having dropped out, but we certainly picked up a good one there. This park also got number 3 for best landscaping, um,
That's
which
Andrew again.
I kind of liked, especially the riverbed with the kind of dry, crackled edges. I thought that turned out really, really well for this. And also number 3 for best steel coaster with Zamindar. This was a cool one, more fantasy-esque, I would say, um, but pretty nice. Did you do this one, or did Andrew do this one, Liam?
I did.
Hold on.
And well, there was some input from Ian Zero, who's not
Oh,
credited with the park, but he was really involved in the whole brainstorm design thing because it took quite a few tries to get it right. Um, so credit to Ian Zero to for raising the bar for me, like pushing me. But I'm really happy
I
with how it came out.
I
But in hindsight, I
enjoyed
wish, yeah.
I
Hmm?
enjoyed the little kind of glitchy turn right here that you hide really, really well. So you don't really see it, and it makes that whole kind of thing way more in scale than if you actually did it with track pieces.
Yeah, you gotta cheat sometimes.
Certainly a good coaster. Certainly well deserving of the podium step for best steel coaster. All right, so let's move along. We've got the next parks up. We're getting more into some kind of random assortment of winners here, and some also some appearances from some other teams that came up just a little bit short. So next up is tile inspectors once again. This is Villaru Surmer, the Azure Coast recreation or inspiration, I suppose, with some pretty spectacular landscaping and rock work. Um, I still laugh at this one because when this got posted, I was over there in France in this area, so it's certainly a little bit of good memories from then. But this was a really impressive park and showed up on a lot of people's top lists.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and it won 2 awards in a way, at least 2 awards that are tied to this park and that are closely related.
Mm-hmm. The first one of
So
those is number one is best landscaping. So definitely um, a well-deserved win there with the both the rock work and the foliage as well. But the rock work I think ended up being the real star here, and that actually took home the number one best object with Fish's Rocks. Certainly, this sort of was a groundbreaking new thing between the Fish Rocks and the Tulsamere Rocks. This was a lot of rock work in this contest, but really is going to change the way that a lot of people do this sort of work.
it was my vote as well, and I think it's fitting that this park won, because I think this contest, this edition of Head to Head, one of the recurring themes was trying to experiment with rocks. We've seen several looks, new looks, experiments. Some worked, some didn't. And this is the definite one. This is the one that's going to stick. And the others probably won't, or at least to a lesser degree. But this kind of is the new standard for top tier rock work, I think. And this is the park where it happened, where it started. So, yeah, all credit to Fish here and his friends, of course.
I know for me, I've always, as I've been building over the years, I've always been looking for a way to really make kind of realistic looking rock work. And it's always been a challenge because you had the 1K rocks, you could just do regular landscaping, you could do, a number of different things. We've seen a lot of the Krypton rocks or the LOTR, Lord of the Rings ones, but none of them quite stuck in the way that I feel like this rockwork will. Granted, it's also like 40 objects, so we're going to need that new save format so we can select them all. But it's a really cool way to turn objects into something that looks a little more natural than some of what we had to work with in the past.
I'm just taking in the scenery.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the nice architecture in this one. It's funny for me. The best parts of this thing is everything but the theme park. Like I'm spending all my time. Not to say that the theme park wasn't good, but I'm spending all my time looking at the landscape, looking at the architecture, looking at the roadways, the bridges, the infrastructure.
The infrastructure is great.
A lot of really good details. Loving the bridge here, loving the cutaway with the transit station underneath, and all of these cool curved covers and everything else. Quite nice.
Honestly, I think it could have done without the underground station. This view is a little bit messy, and maybe it should have been just more cool rock work. Because the rocks are the best feature here.
This did a pretty decent job at blending the sidewall landscape. Still not a huge fan of it, but I think this one does a nice job at covering textures and colors really well.
I think it's the best version we've seen.
Let's move along to the next one here. So we're gonna roll back a little bit here to El Dorado. We're going back to Adventurers Club with this park. And this was a surprise, I think. There's a lot of really good work in this one, and I think for me what always struck me on El Dorado was how much stuff they managed to pack in without it looking totally dense. Like you can read everything pretty well throughout the whole space without it being too overly packed.
Yeah, and the organic park layout helps a lot.
It sure does. Yeah, there's a lot of really nice
and
grow and shrink. I mean, when you talk about doing guest pathways in an organic manner, this is something to look at. This is how that's done.
There's hardly a straight line in here.
Exactly. So this one has one win and a couple of runner-ups. So this park got number 3 as far as best ride design, and also number 3 of Steal the Draft. That's a joint win with Scoop and another that we're going to see here shortly. So congrats to Scoop. I know this was a big park for him, really kind of breakout build. And that's 2 Steal the Drafts now for Josh. So Adventurers Club picking well. And our winner for this park is number 1 for best themed ride, and that is the Rio Maldito. And I think that is absolutely understandable because this is a really cool coaster, or water coaster type ride.
Yeah, it got my vote as well. Like this view that you have right now.
Turn around.
Yeah, like the front view. That's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Absolutely, lots of great landscaping. I love the way the waterfalls fall in here at 2 different angles. I love seeing this this drop coming right down the middle, and sort of has that the Journey to Atlantis type feel to it in a fresh new way. So I done incredibly well, and the colors just throughout the whole composition work really well with the kind of concrete stone and then the gold that carries through the whole park, and then this blue. And I love the fact that we have a little bit of red and the green kind of popping through there just to give it some variety through the whole space.
Maybe this is, together with Drowned, my favorite color scheme in the whole contest.
Yeah, this was a really pleasing scheme. I think nice palette, nice look throughout. I like the use of the palette to carry through into the theming of the whole park with this gold motif throughout. It's a really nice gold color, and just works well carrying through the whole space. But great park overall. Lots of nice coasters. This was a good win, and even featuring some cutaway here. I would also point, as far as creativity goes, for the cutaway text here hidden very, very well on top of the roof.
Yeah, that was clever.
Good way to do it.
The cutaway opposite of this, on the other side of the map, I think it's the Gold Forge. I got several mentions in the best idea category.
Yes, that turned out quite well. Using the conveyor belt and the track and everything.
And I love the slow waterfalls.
Yes. Yeah, that was a cool idea, and I'm guessing that was probably a Josh object as he was cranking objects through this whole contest. Lots of good new stuff to work with. But nice park overall. All right. So let's move along to the next one. So this is Yerka Daylight Time from the Screen Queens, which we're mentioning because Terry Inferno won number 3, Steal of the Draft, tied with Scoop, 4 votes there. And I feel for this park because this went up against Stardust Jubilee, which was just such a kind of mind-blowing type park, and it kind of sucks because no matter what you're gonna do against some of those, it's gonna be a tough road to haul. And there was a lot of neat stuff in this park that I think might have been missed initially, but I do feel like there's been an appreciation of this park as time has gone on, which it should.
Yeah, it's a bit underrated maybe, and maybe overlooked because it doesn't really look like the 2021 meta. But there's no crunch. The level of detail was lower. I don't think it's set out to achieve that, so it's not fair to judge it on those qualities. And this park excels in other ways. Like, look at this tangle of track. Like, that's pretty sick. And I think this is one of the best parks in terms of ride design. Like, every ride has an idea behind it,
I
and that's
love
really
the
commendable.
I love the way all these things twist in and out of each other. This log flume is fantastic. The way that it sort of wraps itself around this big spiral lift. Got this cool drop up against this nice big set piece of the faucet. I wasn't super familiar with Yasuk Yurka when this first came out, so when I was doing my review video for this, I ended up doing a little bit of research and gave me even further appreciation for the park. Certainly worth a spin, worth a look as we remember this one. The Scream Queens had a kind of a rough go of things in the contest as far as votes and wins go, but it's not to say that they didn't produce some pretty darn cool parks.
I think this park embodies the Scream Queens spirit the best, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very artistic and doing their own thing.
Yeah, some great ideas. All right, well let's move along. We're gonna go back to Logan's run here for the Nippon Professional Baseball Weekend at Tokyo Dome City. Well, had the longest name until Diegetic Underground sniped that one.
I want to see this.
Here we go, going. The home run for the Yomiuri Giants, who are going to take home the win. This was credit to Mavericks for this one and this really, really clever kind of set piece start and just opening sequence. That was something that we wanted to do on this park pretty early on, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
It's so random. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was one of those things that was funny. We wanted to do a somewhat realistic park, and at the time, Mavericks was living in Japan, so it was a one of those instances where he had been to this park, I had been to this park, and actually Mr. Brightside and Trav had also been to this park, so we were all sort of talking initially about who was going to do it, how we were going to do it, and it ended up that Mavericks and I did a lot of this this one together, and we kind of traded off on time zones since we were opposite time zones, so it ended up working out pretty well. But this one took home 2 awards. So number 3, best idea for that opening scene with the baseball. So that was a pretty cool start, and we saw some other good opening scenes throughout the contest as well. But yeah, so number 3 and number 1 for best ride design. And credit to Zarathustra for some of the hacking on a few of these. So notably the Skyflower parachute ride, and then also the hold break on the Intimate Impulse, which I think was the first time that we had seen that done. This was also a couple of custom rides that Kinos had built for us. There's that break there. So it's the swing ride here, and I think there were 7 total custom rides for this map. Funny too, because we also had tile inspectors release their version of the custom swing ship at I think the next round after this one.
I think it was the same round.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So lots of nice new features to work with.
Yeah, and there were mentions for the best new object for both swinging ships.
I think
Didn't
that's
win,
reasonable.
but it's a standout new object.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, this contest, more than any of the other contests, I feel like gives us a spectacularly large amount of new custom rides that we can use for both rides and for scenery, rides as scenery, and then also for just scenic pieces themselves. There was a lot of great object creation in this contest.
How are you doing for time, by the way?
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing I've got today is we're going to see Adventurers Club top man there for Josh's dog's birthday party, as you do.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
Okay,
A dog birthday party is just funny to me.
as you do.
It's nice that
Good time.
you're gonna hand over the awards that he won.
I will. I'll bring him with me. So let's move on. Keeping in round two, actually, we've had a lot of early round award winners here. Going to the park that went up against El Dorado. This is Pirates. This one I could have easily seen as a uh, contest for a best losing park potentially. This was a great map, especially for this big scene here with the Kraken destroying the ships. I thought this was pretty spectacular. And it was spectacular enough to bring home number 2 for best idea, the Kraken scene.
Yeah, no contest for me. It's really
Love,
good.
love the way the adventure ride, this boat ride here, sort of wraps its way down through this whirlpool and then pops out over here by the ghost ship. This one could have easily taken home a best landscaping for me as well. More of the traditional method of the volcano and CSO pieces, the custom rocks and everything else, along with some of the old ruins and things like that. This was done very well. I think this turned out quite nice. I was a fan of this coaster as well. With, the way that it sort of hugged the terrain and the cool custom supports that stuck out of the walls. It was very nicely done. We didn't get to see a lot of Nin in this contest. This was, I think, at least 50% of him, and definitely was ashamed to not see more because this was really quite nice.
And it's kind of out of the box for him too, I feel. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like a nin park. But it
Yeah,
could
I
have
would
been
say
interesting
so.
if we had more of that.
Exactly. Loving too the the color scheme that was kind of close to El Dorado as well. So it was another one of those kind of funny incidents where you have a pretty similar park color scheme going head to head with the other. Well, now we'll go a little further on and get to what was one of my favorite parks. Um, just enjoy the opening scene here.
Okay, let's pay attention.
Here he goes. As you can see with the text down below, we've got a lot of pretty interesting things to follow up on. We are not just a viewer anymore; we are now a participant. That the whole scene here and everything described in it ended up coming home with the number one best idea in the contest. So number one best idea for the murder mystery game that Split Vision built into this park. And that opening scene that we just enjoyed was the number 4 best idea. So this park took home both number 1 and number 4 in that category.
Yeah, the best idea category, it was all Gangland. There were several other things mentioned as well. And it was also the case with Stardust Jubilee. Like there were several mentions for the signs, but they were spread out, so all in all they didn't end up in the top list. With Gangland, even though the mentions were spread out, still taking home the number 1 and 4 spot. And the element that's missing out is the chase after you solve the mystery. There were also mentions for that, but not enough to make the top 3 or 4.
Which is a shame.
But yeah, it's just this whole park is just so rich in ideas, or a few ideas are just so strong. Still blows my mind.
Such a great, such a cool use of hacked rides and timing and everything like that. It's one of those things that really takes the game beyond the kind of base level of look and enjoy and really turns it into a another level of interest. I'd probably put some best ideas for the crackled scenery on the sides. I think that was cool. That was something we were working on our 1930s park before that one got kiboshed by this and Riverview. Um, and I love the attempt for the spiral wheel ride. I thought that was very well done. And they just pointed out in chat to the parking garage here as well, which was actually something we were working on in our park too. So it's kind of funny how that all turned out. Lots of cool stuff to see.
I really like the architecture here too. Maybe it's an underrated aspect of the park, but the skyscrapers that Stormrun Event did are so good, and those low rises too. The older building and the signs everywhere and the laundry behind it. It's just so good. It's flawless.
There's a lot of very nice detail in this, especially the fact that it's essentially a monochrome palette. So you're really just dealing with different shades of gray. Still conveys quite a bit of detail. All right. Before we get towards the end here, as we start getting into some of the best parks and things like that, certainly time to offer some overall congratulations and thanks to, well, first of all, to everybody who participated. We had a pretty spectacularly large amount of people once again, which still says something about a game from 2001 that we're still managing to pull in this many people for a contest like this. And our 6 captains putting in the effort and putting in the time for all of that work. It's not an easy task, as I think everyone will attest to, but was done very, very well. And certainly the admins too for their pretty time consuming and just somewhat thankless job of prepping all the releases, getting those things out, getting all the website set up and everything else. It's certainly a background task that certainly really is what puts the contest on. So I think we can congratulate and thank the admin team for it.
Well, thanks for saying it. It sounded really grumpy, but no.
Grumpy?
Yeah, it sounded a bit grumpy, but maybe I'm wrong.
Not
I
too
thought
much.
it sounded grumpy. But
No.
You're welcome.
No, it's a lot of effort.
For the others here, you're welcome. And it was definitely not easy. Like, we worked hard, but previous editions were probably harder for us because it was so drama free. There were maybe 1 or 2 incidents that required a lot of attention, but overall it was pretty smooth sailing for all of us.
Yeah, I feel like
for that,
this.
we gotta thank the community.
I agree with that one. This contest went really, really well. I think there was also some nervousness coming off a head-to-head 8, but this contest went really well. All right, well, let's keep on moving. There was the award for best reviewer is in here, and I'll thank everyone for the votes for that one. So I took home the win on that one. So thank you for everybody who enjoyed those videos that I made and all the various coverage there. I definitely thought it was worth acknowledging all of the builders to as much detail as we can. Looking through those videos, everybody put a lot of time and effort into these parks, and it needs to be acknowledged.
And it's no coincidence that you are hosting this video and not someone else. That's because your coverage was good.
Good. Well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed it, and thank you very much for the votes for that one. All right. Well, let's move along and get to looking at some of the best parts of the contest that didn't win, but still took home some honorable mentions here. So first off, we're gonna pull up the manual laborers, Cortesio, Guy Paris here. This is probably my personal number one. But this one took home number 2 for best park, so coming up just shy. and number 3 for best architecture. Both very well deserved.
I'd say so too. And I voted for this for best architecture. Not as my number 1 pick, but one of the parks I picked. So I think that it came in third is very deserved, I think.
The fantastic coasters and the architecture, and then just the infrastructure details, I think were very well done. The fact of using the jet ski pieces for this chain drive, using the 4D coaster here for these big fans, it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, you can say I'm a fan.
Of course you can.
I'm glad they put me in this park. It's an honor.
Yeah. Where were you? Where were you? Were you in the strip club or were you in the?
No, I'm the fan.
There you go.
Sorry.
So the one of the things that I did like about this too was the palette, using the kind of brighter yellow on here to kind of light up some of the spaces, and call out like here where you have the one window lit and the other one's not so. So it gives the park a little bit more life throughout. But a lot of really nice Parisian architecture, just good detailing throughout the whole thing, and good use of objects. But I wouldn't expect anything less from Pacific Coaster, as his skill is certainly well known.
What I appreciate here is that the park is pretty much consists of 3 islands, and each
Mhm.
island has its own style, its own content. Like you have the entertainment district, you have like kind of an industrial port district, and whatever this is.
Yeah, sort of the, I don't know,
Very
residential
distinct.
perhaps. Residential, maybe dining, all that. Very, very Parisian with the tables out on the sidewalk and everything else done
Yeah.
done well.
Feels quite Montmartre too.
I don't know my French well enough.
No, it's a neighborhood. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'll just take your word for it.
It's a great park.
So we're gonna actually stick in this same round and look at the one that came before Stardust Jubilee, Stardust Circuit. This was, I think, the fact that this one sort of came first ended up being a pretty groundbreaking park, just in terms of object, in terms of palette, and all of those sorts of things. So Stardust Circuit took home 3 runner-ups. It was number 2 for best object with the animated squares, guys. It was number 3 for best palette, and it was number 3 for best atmosphere, which I could see that with the atmosphere for sure. A lot of detail had in this.
And there were several mentions for individual signs as well, especially the black and white one, the astronaut and the eye, were mentioned.
Get those. Yeah, these signage here. What I liked about this was kind of how it almost took, you could call it like disaster bench style objects, and made them work in a way that you wouldn't really expect them to. There's just some really kind of funky object choices here that still manage to look good. And those animated squares really do kind of bring the whole thing home with so much motion and movement throughout the whole space.
Again, this looks better than it does on my laptop. I suppose you have OpenGL.
Yes.
Yeah, the animated squares are a bit glitchy for me. So I've never seen the screen this smooth. So that's nice.
Yeah, it gives a good look. I love the use of the kind of weird shaped buildings. Some half diagonals being used pretty well here.
Yeah, that building fucked with my mind. It took me like a half an hour to figure out how it worked.
The fact that you can turn it and the whole thing ends up moving, it's pretty impressive. I love some of the back of house things here behind the front grandstand. Got the spinning cars and the escalators and everything. It's funny too because really the only things to me that um, call out in this that it really feels like RCT are the Ultra Twister hovers here on the escalators and then the coaster itself. Everything else just feels almost like a totally different game. Um, but oh, and Josh has corrected me that this has no half diagonals in it. This is all just perspective tricks. Well, well done.
This part
The
makes me strangely nostalgic. Kind of brings me back to the late 90s somehow.
I'd put this for best idea among other things is the track map. I think that was a pretty darn cool idea.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the rainbow pattern.
Yeah, color use is done really well here, and to some of the object use, I do like all the stuff below. As you get down in here, like this sort of slums area, perhaps, is just super well detailed, really well put together, um, and it adds some more depth to the park overall. But kind of crazy to think that we had both this and um, Stardust Jubilee in the same season. All right, let's move along to a semifinals park. So this is actually our first postseason park that we're looking at. This is not Al Harir. This was from the Tile Inspectors. And we've got two runner-ups on this one. So first one is the best themed ride for Sacred Loom. I believe is the intimate here. Yeah. And the number 3 for best park overall. Oh, definitely figured this one would be in the overall discussion for best park. I think there's just such a good detail to this.
I think there's several details here that could have gone for best idea. Like the whole machine here is using a combination of several sick ideas.
Using the blades here for the loom structure and just the kind of string custom ride here over top of the dark ride tunnels, and the opening and closing restraints on the top spin. Just lots of really cool ideas as a whole. Yeah, this one really kind of does it for me.
That top spin blows my mind. Like, how do you even come up with that?
Yeah, this was one of those parks that they kind of viewed and you're just like, oh man, the game is passing me by. Like, I look at these ideas and think, and the ideas and execution here is just beyond something I would ever come up with, and it's just really incredible to see this sort of innovation and detail in parks like this. I could even see putting this park under best landscaping. It doesn't have a lot of greenery landscaping, but I think what was done here was done really well.
Yeah, I agree. Should have been more of it. I'm more surprised it didn't win or put up more of a fight in the best architecture category. I think this is pretty top tier. This is
I would say so.
Like these domes, this building in the middle, this is as good as it gets.
Well, I called this out when I did my review of it, but you get in here and you zoom in and you see all the different things. You have track after track after track after track on the whole thing, and just, I mean, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 rides on just this dome, plus all the scenic pieces and the layering and everything else. I loved the use of the Sphinx here, double stacked to turn the head. I thought that was a really kind of cool, clever idea, and just the overall archways and everything. This onion dome with the kind of layering pieces here. I actually spent a lot of time in this park sort of deconstructing architecture just to see how it was put together, because it was just one of those sort of mind-blowing things to say, okay, how is this even done? shout out to these little awning objects. I don't know if those existed previously or not, but um, they're new to me, so I will be using them in the future.
They look like old objects that are shrunken to look good. But I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
I think you're right. It looks like the the full tile ones from
Yeah, the
probably
shitty one,
10 years.
right?
Yeah, from 10 years back or more. But yeah, such good detail on this. Probably not surprisingly, this one did not factor in the top three for best palette. Um, Certainly was controversial to say the least. It was a little bit grainy for me, but it did grow on me over time. I will acknowledge that.
Yeah, maybe it's a tad too orange. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's not the best palette, but it's the most palette.
Mm-hmm. It's getting a lot done with the colors, and I like what they're doing with it, and I can kind of see the decision making process behind it, but not quite there for me. Um, but it nonetheless is a spectacular park with not just that one coaster, but the wooden coaster is good too. I love the mine train down here. All very well done. Good use of color, good use of hacked rides, good use of just scenic all in general. So I think very well deserved as the number three best park.
Also, gotta say, it feels huge.
Yes,
It feels much larger than it is.
it's true. It really does seem to bring all that back. All right, well, let's look at the overall winner now, which unfortunately did not take home Best Park, but it did come through with three runner-ups. So this is the championship winning park with Gleidesheim. And this one, like I said, three runner-ups. So it was number two for Best Landscaping, number two for Best Atmosphere, and the number two MVP with Who's Leon. So certainly congrats to him, and a well-deserved spot for him there.
There were several mentions for in other award categories, like for best idea. The procession of the warriors at the start was mentioned several times. Was quite high ranking. And the avalanche, like there they go, the warriors. And the avalanche in the next portion of the landscape also was mentioned, and the blizzard itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of good ideas here.
Absolutely. And I will say, when I first opened this map, I really didn't like this because it was just too textured, too heavy. It could barely kind of make out all the things. But the more that I spent looking at this, doing my review and everything else, I've come around, and I appreciate what was done here with rockwork and the buried villages and just this procession and everything. It's still very textured and still a little challenging to read, but I think it was just done in a way that really takes it beyond what we've seen so far, and kind of pushes the limits to crunch and detail and object use and rides as object use. I'm a little surprised that the coaster here didn't factor into the top threes. Did this one get any votes?
Yeah, I can let me count.
A pretty epic fantasy type coaster, which I appreciate.
7 votes for this coaster.
How many?
7.
Okay.
So that's one of the most popular coasters then.
Love this area here with the custom arches over top of the harbor. And to this lift hill and everything. I swear the tile inspector's got more mileage out of this wagon wheel object than anybody. And the little wagon wheel object too. I feel like
would have
those
been
are
a
in
good
every one
disaster
there.
bench find.
It would be. And it was amazing how many times that I would see this or similar objects used in a way that that look really good and look in a way that are used in a way that you wouldn't expect.
I think for this park, the architecture is underrated because it looks a little plain in places because they're mostly pretty simple houses, but they're done so well. They don't need more, and with the half diagonals to the next level, it's all it needs to be.
Yeah, what gets me is I keep coming back to this little vignette here of say 5 buildings, where we've got the diagonals, the half diagonals, the orthogonal, and all done in different colors and different detail levels. None terribly heavily detailed, so we're not looking at a ton of trim work here, not looking at a ton of other bits and pieces, but just done in a way that really feels natural and it doesn't feel like you're working off of a grid. Do hear some of that best landscaping with the frozen waterfalls. That was done incredibly well.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff done. The scale of this kind of main castle element a little bit tall, but I feel like you kind of have to, in that sense, really make this the dominating factor, and then the rest of this town kind of falls down below it. Yeah, lots of nicely done work here. I thought the palette worked surprisingly well here with a very limited amount of colors. So you have your very blue, very gray section here. You've got your little bit of greens, little pops of green, which makes it feel even more special since this is the holy tree. And then sort of the rest of this where it's you got your browns and your reds and everything to get that kind of warm home feeling of the village.
I'm just taking it in again because, as usual, this is smoother than I'm used to.
That's some good detailing here. I love the use of the RMC trains here on the roof to give it some further texture for these creatures. And again,
Yeah, it's really clever detail because they blend in as an architectural piece. Mm-hmm. And when you look closer, you can tell they're like dragons.
I thought this ice Bob's coaster thing worked a lot better than I would have expected it to. Initially looking at this, I was kind of like, I don't know. And then watching it run, and it actually runs pretty well. I don't know if it's broken down or not right now, but
it's a pretty bold move to include it.
There it is. Yeah, it's very, very cool. And I love the icicles kind of dropping off and everything there. It's done really well. All right. Well, congratulations to the tile inspectors again. We didn't say that earlier, but fantastic season and a well-deserved championship win. But I think now it's time to go and look at the best park.
And this will be the final part for watching.
Final win. Yep, final most prestigious win here. And I'm in the wrong week. So congratulations to the Adventurers Club and Riverview Exposition for the #1 best park in Head-to-Head 9. Well deserved win. And this takes home more than just that. So we've got the #1 best park, the #1 best atmosphere, Hydro Portal taking home the #1 MVP award, #2 best palette, #2 wooden coaster here in Tornado. So 3 great wins, 2 great runner-ups, and just an all-around cool idea, cool park, just everything. There's the amount of crunch and the amount of levels of detail here. The whole just concept is a cool idea. Executed really well. The palette certainly helps that with all the kind of ghostly blue. The research and the detailing behind it, there's a lot of good references to real life in the real life things from the 20s and 30s. Um, Set up here very well. This tower was quite nicely detailed. I actually love the architecture in this too. This sort of dilapidated yet still very ornate architecture for this entrance, especially for the carousel here, using the tram cars, which has kind of become a little more popular of a usage there. But surprising how well that works.
It's pretty advanced on a technical level, like the mix of half diagonals and track architecture and tram cars and stuff. It's pretty next level.
Well, and let's look at the overall map shape. For one, the whole thing is a half diagonal, and it's pretty incredible that we're at that point now where this is a possibility. It was a bit much for me at the time doing the half diagonal thing, but that said, I do think this is a bold and relatively successful use of the half diagonals overall in long stretches here for these roads, for this the colonnade with the road underneath. All very well done.
Can you keep talking for a bit? Because it appears we have forgotten 2 award categories.
Oh no!
I'm putting those together, and then I can reveal the top 3 in each.
All right. Oh no! So we let's look at some more of the sparks because it's totally worth viewing. The riverboat here, which I feel like everybody has done a riverboat at some point in their RCT lives. I know I did mine back in January, but it's cool to see how different people approach different pieces here. And I think this one is done in an incredibly detailed way. And Hydro knows how to do these sorts of things. He's really incredible with all of these details and architecture and just detailing overall. You look at this row of buildings here, which has a couple of cool things. First of all, it's got the sort of dilapidated architecture, the boarded up windows here, which is done well. Here we go. Doing those claps. And of course the Ghostbusters going through here, which I enjoyed. Going out to do some a little bit of extermination there, and then too we have some scenes on the backside. I know Liam, you have often talked about how you're not a fan of the edge of park buildings and the cutaways that can often be pretty repetitive, but I think they're done pretty well here in the fact that there's a lot of cool details. Like clearly there's something here in this well that's sparkling. You've got this kind of mobster boardroom scene up here on the top level, and there's just a lot of cool, interesting details throughout the whole space. Great. Mm-hmm.
Like the whole living room stuff up there. Like the kitchen is amazing, but also the couches, and there's a lot going on here.
Absolutely.
Really good skill. It's impressive.
Absolutely. And color palette, we already talked about it as far as the kind of ghost blue goes, but we're also looking at some pretty nice work for the rest of it to get it dark, but not too dark. Still enough variation. I love the darker blues, the reds, the greens here with the trees and everything, how it's all kind of grown itself over time. This is a great strip here too with the game stalls and the half diagonals, and just kind of the way that this curves throughout. This could easily be just a straight shot across, but they've gone for the challenging method of these kind of wavy turns and everything else, and then too just kind of the overall crunch and detailing here, something that I feel like we kind of first started to see with Josh in the Grand Tour, but has been kind of carried through, and Hydra has sort of taken it and run with it for all of these different details and aging and everything else that just adds that extra level of texture, extra level of detail.
I'm ready, by the way, for more.
All right. Well, let's go. What do we have?
So it's amateur hour. I overlooked 2 categories, but they kind of go well together. We have most innovative park, most innovative park. I'll just count down from 3 to 1. So in joint 3rd place, we have Stardust Circuit and Stardust Jubilee. Both have 16 votes in most innovative park. And then 1 more vote for this park, Riverview Exposition. 2nd place for most innovative park. And I guess that is due to the concept and the techniques used, and I guess the amount of stuff that was on a half diagonal. It's pretty hard to argue with. And then in 1st place, can you guess it?
I know I can.
Try it.
We're gonna go with Gangland.
Yeah, of course. Most
28
innovative
votes.
park, Gangland, with 28 votes. So that's 11 up from the number 2, which had 17.
A pretty commanding win.
Yeah, that's one of the only real landslide wins. Is the landslide? It's definitely one of the most convincing wins in this this round of awards.
Yeah, actually, I will say to that, one of the things that surprised me on this award voting was how close it was, and again, it speaks to the overall quality of the parks this go around, in the fact that there weren't particularly things that ran away with it. There was a lot of really good competition.
I guess that brings us to the last category, which is best park concept. And then we have a joint 3rd place again. Again, Stardust Circuit keeps coming in 3rd. That's funny. And also in joint 3rd place is again Riverview Exposition. So we're starting to hear the same names quite a lot. But then in 2nd place we have a park that we haven't mentioned yet today. So up from 17 votes, we have in 2nd place with 18 votes, Uncanny Valley.
We're gonna go look at that one just because it's been
maybe
a
we can open it.
little bit. But week 4. This is a little bit of a sleeper one for me. I enjoyed it. It is a very classic style, very kind of old school RCT, not super detailed, standard palette ish, I think, and just a funny park. It was one of those that you look at and you go, okay, great, it's a park, and the longer you look, the stranger it gets.
Maybe you can compare this park to Yerka Daylight Time, as in it doesn't seem to be fully up to date with the modern styles and techniques. That was not the point. So you need to look beyond the style, which is fine, by the way, to see the true value of the park. And I'm glad that it got recognized as 2nd place in best park concept.
Yeah, there's lots of some obvious, some subtle details, like in one tunnel, out the other side, crossing, and just really kind of clever ideas throughout, and just kind of funny things that once you see one of them, you're like, okay, well, how many more are there? And then it becomes a contest to try and see how many you can spot.
And we still have to post a list, but there's over 100 ideas. Over 100 things you can find. I think 120, 130, something like that. And it was a lot of fun to brainstorm together, come up with all these ideas. Just endless fun. But let's move on, I think, to the number 1 best park concept. It's only 1 vote up, so Uncanny Valley narrowly missed. With 19 votes, it's Gangland.
No surprise there. Gangland was really groundbreaking in a lot of ways, I'd say, but it certainly turned into a really kind of juggernaut of a park as far as ideas go, and just details and kind of clever ideas. But let's go back to Riverview here to
Yeah, it's the big winner.
and everything. So the big winner, most awards throughout, but I think like Gangland probably comes awfully close. But we can do a quick recap. Do you want to go back through and just rattle off the number ones again for anybody who came in a little bit late?
Yeah, we can do that. Do you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, we can kind of go through. So we're just kind of starting off at the top and kind of working our way down. So the number one steal of the draft was Where's Waldo. The number one steel coaster was actually a joint win between Aversio Lemuria and Rite of Passage from Lost World. We have the best losing park as Lost World, the best palette, and the best match between Lost World and Aqua Alta. We have the Rookie of the Year Hydro Portal, which I think that's a heck of a Rookie of the Year, seeing that he largely built Riverview Exposition here. Says a lot about his skill and how coveted he will be come head-to-head 10. Rajasan wins Best Architecture. Villarude Surmer wins Best Landscaping. El Dorado wins the Best Themed Ride with Rio Maldito, the log flume type ride there. Nippon Professional Baseball Weekend at Tokyo Dome City wins number one for ride design. Gangland wins the best idea for the murder mystery. That also wins most innovative park and best park concept overall. The best wooden coaster went to the Good Death, the Moss from Logan's round 1. I took home best reviewer. Take that. And then Riverview Exposition comes in with number one for best park and number one for best atmosphere, and of course, again, number one MVP in Hydro Portal. So those are your winners from New Elements Head-to-Head 9.
I think this is the official end then.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you coming by. If you weren't able to make it or want to watch again, we'll have this posted up on New Elements channel, and I'll have it up on my channel as well, so you guys can take a look and see it all again. Congratulations to all the winners and all the participants in general. I think this, like we've said before, this was a super successful head-to-head, and it went incredibly well. And we have a lot of great parks with new objects and new custom scenery and new custom rides and all sorts of fun stuff to use for the future. Any parting words, William?
Maybe just a few, because this is the official end, so gotta have some words. I think I just want to thank the whole community. Speaking from the admin team, we're very grateful for the participation and the dedication you've shown over these months. And it's been an unprecedented success. And we're really proud of the community for coming up with all this stuff. And we were happy to host. And we're happy to host again a few years from now, I suppose. And thank you for the streams, Brian. And I guess this is it.
Always happy for the stream. So we'll do like they do in the Olympics. We will say that we will call all RCT players together in 3 years from now for head-to-head 10. And we look forward to another great competition then. It's kind of crazy to think what we might be doing in that point in time after seeing what kind of innovation we have this year. So there's a lot to look forward to in this game, and it's certainly not going to stop growing, I don't think. So anyway, we will end it there and say thank you very much. Go right ahead. What do you have?
Actually got an announcement.
Okay.
Micro Madness 4. Tomorrow.
Oh, heck yeah. All right. Micro 4, so get those small parks ready. Get that detail up, and we'll look forward to seeing some of that competition here coming soon. So, Micro Madness 4 coming soon. So with that hype, we're going to end it and say thank you guys very much for watching, and we will catch you next time. Bye now.